First thing you need to do is make sure that you've gone to my message board and printed off the lab report for today's Phenomenon of Sound lab experiment. You're going to need a variety of different materials today, so let's begin by looking at some of those materials. You're going to need some sort of drum. Now, if you have a real drum, that would work best. If you have a toy drum, that would probably work too. If not, you could always use a container of oats or an old coffee can with maybe a piece of paper stretched over it. But anything that could act as a drum will work wonderfully. You're also going to need a few paper clips to use. You're going to need a rubber band, and if you have something where you could stretch the rubber band, that would work really great. If not, you could always borrow a set of hands from your learning coach and have your learning coach take the rubber band when you're ready and stretch it for you. You're going to need to have a glass with some water in it. If you have a tuning fork that's used for singers or people who play musical instruments to hear different pitch, that would be perfect. If not, look in your kitchen and see if you have a meat fork, and be careful because most of them are sharp on the end. And this will do the job, even though it's not as effective as a tuning fork. Then you're also going to need 2 different pieces of silverware, and you're going to need a ruler. So let's go ahead and begin by reading our procedures. Lab Station 1 is the drum with the paper clips on top. So let's take the drum and put the paper clips on top, and then we're going to tap on the drum and observe what happens to the paper clip. Make sure that you look on your lab sheet at your data table. You're going to be recording several different observations for each different step in this experiment. So you'll need to report what you see, what you hear, what type of medium you think the sound wave's traveling through. If you think there's a direction that the wave is going, you would include that as well. And you'll see on your data table the different questions that you need to answer for each of these different experiments. So let's begin by getting a close-up of what happens when we tap on our drum. Alright, so now we're looking at our drum with our paper clips on top, and we're just going to tap. You should make observations not only about what you see and what you hear, but also answer the other questions that are in your data table that have to do with the medium, which is the material, such as air, water, and then also these paper clips and the surface of the drum, that the sound waves seem to be traveling through. Okay, so the next station is touching your throat, so you can get a close-up of my throat, and I'm going to put my fingers on the side of my throat and say, and then I'm going to write down the observations of what I feel, what I hear when I'm doing, what do I feel in my fingers touching my throat. So the next step is going to be here with our fork and our water. And I'm going to use this piece of wood to hit my fork on. And again, if you have a tuning fork, this is really going to work much better. But because most people won't have that, I'm using a meat fork. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my fork on the wood, and then I'm going to place it in the water. And again, you may hear something, so listen carefully. Now, if I did have a tuning fork, what you would have seen when I put the fork into the water would be ripples in the water from the sound waves. So keep that in mind when you're writing down your observations on your data table. So next we're going to look at our rubber band test. And our rubber band test I have set up here with these pegs. If you don't have something like this, remember that you could always just have someone hold the rubber band apart for you. But go ahead and flick the rubber band and make observations again and write them down in your data table. So what can you say about the sound waves in this example? And then our next experiment is going to involve your two pieces of silverware. I have a larger fork and a smaller fork. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit them together, and then I'm going to take the smaller fork and I'm going to move it close to my ear so that I can hear what's going on. I'm going to do that to show you, and then I'm going to move them both closer to the camera so that maybe you might be able to hear what I hear when I hit these together. So let's begin first by hitting them, and I'll try it out. Now I'm going to hit them together and bring them both closer to the camera so that you can hear. And then the last step is the ruler on the edge of the table. So observe as I take the ruler and I put it on the edge of the table, and I'm going to hold it down with one hand, and then we're going to see what happens to the edge of the ruler as I flick it like this. And let's try that one more time and see if we can see and hear what's going on with sound in this example. And that's going to be the conclusion of our phenomenon of sound and waves experiment today. Remember to finish filling out your lab sheet and turn that in to earn credit. Thank you for joining me for our fun and exciting lab today. Have a great day.